Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, let's do Phoenix. Phoenix Suns time. I'm going to give you all of the rosters. If you guys have been following me, my goal is to try to get each and every roster before the season starts. And I've gotten to a good, probably like 9 of them or something like that thus far. So up next is Phoenix. All right, starting off, if we're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns, you're going to mention CP3 first. CP3 is a player that came there and just basically changed life for their team, just as he's done in Oklahoma City as well, and everywhere he's really been. Even in situations where the fit wasn't right, they overachieved because he was there. I think about how they did in Houston. That fit was awkward with him and James Harden, but they still managed to get playoff success, even in the midst of some very, very awkward circumstances there, trying to figure that out. Ultimately, he finds himself here, and they went to the NBA Finals last year, and a great deal of that had to do with him having a healthy season and just being an MVP candidate all year long. From the moment he got to Phoenix, it was evident that the fit was just right and that they were well on their way to having a very special season. This team turned it all the way around. They went from being a team that wasn't making the playoffs to a team that was on the edge of the and I won't forget this. They were at in the NBA bubble, made their way there, didn't lose a single game in the bubble, but did not qualify mathematically. I thought it was one of the big faux pas of that entire situation. The fact that Phoenix was not there to face the Lakers in the first round. They should have been. They earned that. They were better than most of the teams in there, and they just did not qualify. So I thought that really fueled them, gave them a chip on their shoulder, and it gave them confidence and let them understand that they can play with anybody. They learned that right then and there, and they came back the next season with a vengeance and just made themselves known as one of the best teams in the league early on and kept that all the way through the playoffs. A good portion of the season, I thought they were the leading team to win the Western Conference, which they did. And getting into the playoffs, as we were starting to battle through the playoffs, I had them winning the championship for a good portion of the time. They did unfortunately fall to the Milwaukee Bucks, but this is a team that is very happy with how their season went, and I don't think they look at that as something that was a one and done. I think they believe they can get back there, if not this year, in the coming seasons, while Booker, CP3, and Ayton are on the same team. So CP3 is the head of the snake, and you have to appreciate what they've done as well with this roster and giving themselves CP3 insurance. They have enough backups, quality backups, to make you feel really good about their team, even if he doesn't necessarily make it through the season fully healthy. So they are a good team, and CP3 is the head of the snake. As I've mentioned, of course, we want to talk about Devin Booker. He's the heart and soul of this team. He's the guy. He's basically the star of the show. Even though CP3 is the most important piece on the team, Devin Booker is ultimately their guy. He's their Steph Curry. He's their Giannis. It doesn't matter who comes into Phoenix. As far as I can tell from where I'm standing, Phoenix is his town. That's his organization at this time, and it's good that he's ultimately finds himself in this position. It didn't look as good a couple years back. Looking at the trajectory of this franchise, things were looking bad. The owner was getting clowned for some of the decisions that he was making or what have you, but they turned it around, man, and Devin Booker stuck with it. He stayed loyal. He signed their supermax, not supermax, but their max contract. I don't believe he qualified for super, but he's there. He's on contract, and he's happy. They stopped fooling around, basically, and put a real team around this guy, and you're hopeful that other teams can kind of pull off what Phoenix was able to pull off over the last couple of years. Granted, it requires that you have your cap in order and a good GM that can help maneuver and things like that, for which they have, and I think that's why they're ultimately in the position that they are in. If I'm not mistaken, James Jones is the GM here, and I like what he's done with this roster. It's no secret that they have done a great job. So, Devin Booker, of course, their superstar. If you want to talk about Devin Booker, you're talking about a lethal scorer. From the time he got into this game, he was a 30-point scorer. At 19 years old, he was scoring 30. He was doing it regularly, and that's the part that was really unique about him, was that he was one of the youngest players in the draft that year, and his draft value was low because of it, and he still stepped in and showed everybody why exactly they were all foolish for not taking him. He was one of the best rookies of that year, came out of Kentucky, and he was in a logjam situation in Kentucky. was nothing to do but catch and shoot for a guy like Devin Booker in college. They had so much talent at the time to where, they had 5-star recruits just kind of coming in and playing roles. And that's exactly what was going on with him. He wasn't even starting at Kentucky, and it was, of course, a one and done. So he was so talented. So it was kind of like people didn't really have a well enough sample size against real big bodies in college to really feel good about him coming out of the draft, as they should have, knowing what he could do. But he's developed into exactly what we thought he would do. In fact, he's better than that. And now you think about him as one of the lethal offensive two-way players, two guards rather, in the entire league. One of the first names come up when we talk about pure lethal shooting guard scorers. He's just simply one of the best. All right, let's keep on going. We got DeAndre Ayton, first overall pick 2 years ago in a draft with Trae Young and Luka Doncic, and nobody, and I mean nobody, has sat up here and said, "Oh man, they got a bad draft pick there. Oh, they should they have taken, the guy? Should they have taken? I want to say Jokic for some reason, but no, not Jokic. You know what I'm trying to say. Should they have taken him? No, they shouldn't have taken him. No, they needed a center, and they got who they needed. They got a player at that position who has anchored their center position, one of the best conditioned centers in the league, and ultimately somebody who's pulling down rebounds at ease. Someone I'd like to see get more aggressive shooting the ball in terms of stretching the floor a little bit. He came out of college with that ability, and I don't think he's really tapped into it in the NBA. He's kind of let that part of his game disappear. They've played him in a more traditional role as a center. And that's a good thing, because you don't necessarily need him falling in love with the three, but you also don't want him to lose that aspect of his game. I think of a guy like Draymond Green. Draymond Green is a great example of a player who, when he first started breaking out and showing us what he could do, the three-point shot was in his arsenal. But over time, having the role that he's had, it hasn't been important for him to keep that in his arsenal. And because of it, he's pretty much lost it. I don't want to see that happen with Ayton. I think his three-point shot was smooth. When he came out, people were comparing him to Towns, but stronger, and that's going to continue to keep him special. So I don't want him to lose that. So that's what I got to say about Ayton. But other than that, he's a fantastic player. He exceeded my expectations in the finals because they didn't have a proper power forward, in my opinion. They were running Jay Crowder out there, and it was incumbent upon him to play defense at a higher level to keep up with players, sometimes multiple positions at the same time, and he was able to accomplish that and do his job. Now, granted, Giannis did get the best of him in the finals, but Giannis would have got the best of just about anybody, so you're not going to hold that against him. He took on that assignment, single coverage, and did the best he could against Giannis, and I think if this is 2 years from now, he does an even better job, because he's going to get stronger, he's going to get better, he's going to get smarter. So I like that experience for him now. Early in his career, he's already been in the NBA Finals, tasked with guarding the Finals MVP, and it's only 4 seasons in, so you gotta love that. Apologies to Luka Doncic, by the way. I just couldn't figure out names. I'm terrible at that. I know exactly who I'm talking about, but I have so many things in my head, so it's kind of hard to pick names out of it. But anyway, that's who I was thinking about. Luka Doncic. He was in there with DeAndre Ayton, and should they have taken Luka Doncic? I don't think so. I mean, in a vacuum, of course. Yeah, of course. But I'm saying, like, are they worse off because they have Ayton? Hell no. God, no. Their future is just fine with DeAndre Ayton. I look at that as more of a comparable situation, and don't get it twisted. I'm not comparing them to the two players, but I'm saying this is more like Jordan and Olajuwon than Jordan and Sam Bowie. Put it like that. I'm big on Ayton. He's going to be just fine. So, let's see. Next name I want to talk about here is Cam Payne. Cam Payne, backup point guard for the Phoenix Suns, broke out in the playoffs last season. Now, this is a guy who I knew had some defensive intangibles as soon as he was drafted. So one of the things that stood out about him, even though he was on the back, I think it was Chicago bench, was that when he came in to the game, he would pick up steals. Those would be the stats that would, stand out about him more than anything else early on. And usually when I see that trait, it's a great thing. Oladipo had that trait. Rondo had that trait. He has it as well. So that let me think, when I see that lets me think, okay, other things are going to fall into place. If this person can get steals early, Yeah, other things work out sooner than later in a lot of cases. So that's what I've seen with Cam Payne. Over time, he's just developed into a really good two-way defensive, offensive player. He does both, and his confidence and his shot has gotten much better over time. He's got his packages going in terms of his all the different things that he likes to do with step backs and playing off of pick and rolls and stuff like that. He's gotten really, really, really good at those things, and he's turned into one of the most important players on this Phoenix Suns roster. I'm very, very pleased for them bringing him back. I thought it was important that they kept him, and they did that. So congratulations to them. Next player, another guy with his name, Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson is a young, small forward, power forward shooting guy. He's a shooter. One of the better young shooters out there, to be honest with you. I enjoyed a great deal of what he was able to do defensively as well. He shocked the hell out of me at how active he was in the passing lanes. Very, very active player. It seemed like every time there was a steal to be involved in the playoffs, it seemed like every time I'm watching Phoenix and they are doing something defensively, he's a part of it. So I didn't necessarily have him as an elite level prospect defensively, but what I saw from him in the playoffs showed me that he has that. So not only is he a 3 guy, but he's a D guy. And most importantly, he's going to be a high-level guy as he continues to develop. I think they got a potential high-level role player, very high-level role player, maybe even a starter with Cam Johnson over time. This guy is good. He's good, man. And the potential for him to get better is right there. Another guy that I think they're doing just fine with is Mikal Bridges. And they got him out of Philadelphia. If you follow my channel, you know I always reference the situation with his mom. That's one of those things that stand out in my memory in the NBA history. Is the fact that his mom worked for the Philadelphia 76ers. They drafted her son. She got on television during the draft saying how happy she was he was going to be a part of the organization, and they traded him right after that interview. I thought that was something that they could have gave her a heads up about so that she didn't come up there with that type of energy. And give her a heads up because she's an employee and she's going to have to go through the process of her son being shipped across the country instead of being with the team that ultimately she works for and was drafted for. So I felt like they did her kind of dirty. For her to be an employee, she should have had more inside information. The fact that that's her son that they dishing off like that, I thought that was foul. So I always mention it every time I mention him. But that's not what makes him special. What makes him special is the fact that he's a very, very good basketball player on both sides of the floor. Fantastic three-point shooter. Not as aggressive scoring the ball as I'd like to see him become, but I think a lot of that had to do with just the other mouths that have to be fed on this roster. But he's somebody that plays defense, somebody who's good slashing to the basket, excellent three-point shooter, good off the ball. What I noticed, he maneuvers very well off the ball. Anytime there's some slashing to do, some cutting to do, he was involved doing a great job. Him and Cam Johnson play off each other very well. This is just a good small forward I think has a lot of upside. And if I'm Phoenix, one of the most important things is keeping him on board, keeping him in roster, keeping him in at a price that I can be happy with. Because you do have some very, very important players at the top that are going to be max guys. He could play his way into a max role someday, and that would be very, very devastating for the Phoenix Suns. So that's just what it is. You can't keep everybody. But I'll tell you this. If I got Booker, CP3, Ayton, Cam Johnson, and Mikal Bridges, and Cam Payne, those 6 players alone, for me, mean that I'm a playoff team. I just need to make sure I keep good enough pieces around those guys. Because that core right there, that's a winning core. And they've already proven that. The next name I want to mention here is Elfrid Payton. And I'm going to choose Elfrid Payton because he's why I think they did such a good job at their point guard position, making sure they had plenty of CP3 insurance. He's an older guy now. Even though he continues to play well, he's not a guy predicated on his athleticism or speed, so he's going to continue to play well. But you just don't want him to have such impossible defensive assignments. You don't want him to be the only pure facilitator on the floor, and you want to keep as many defensive point guards on the floor as possible so that he doesn't have to be tasked with some of these assignments alone, so they can run certain types of things that kind of hide him defensively. Elfrid Payton gives them that ability. Elfrid Payton is a defensive point guard who's pass first, a very good facilitator, very good steals guy, and somebody who doesn't score like that, but he's getting a little better here and there. He's a very good player just in terms of feel. He's going to get involved. He's going to make sure that his presence is known. He hasn't stepped into a cachet of player that I thought he would when he was drafted with the Orlando Magic starting as their point guard, but over time he's found a nice role in this league. Now he is buried behind CP3 and Cam Payne, But because Cam Payne plays some two guard, I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Elfrid Payton to come in and get some minutes, not a hefty amount, but some minutes to keep his value high, so that he can ultimately continue his career in this league and hopefully get better roles in this going forward. But I think right now he's in a winning situation, so you'll take that sacrifice in terms of minutes and playing time to be a part of something really special that maybe they have going here. Maybe they do. Next name I want to mention is Dario Saric. I don't know if I'm ready to die on this hill, but what I will say is, as soon as he went down, their championship aspirations left too. He went down with a knee injury in the finals, I believe it was, or the semifinals, I don't remember. But he definitely went down with an injury that took him out of the playoffs, and he was a very, very, very important piece because he was a power forward that did a lot of things for you, including stretching the floor, passing the rock, rebounding, a lot of combination stuff. He was a forgotten man out there who was doing a lot of good things for their team. So even though when you're thinking about all the success that they were having, this, that, and the third, you weren't considering him, as soon as he was removed from that lineup, you understood how important he was. They just did not have enough depth at that power forward position to withstand any injury whatsoever to him. And when he went down, that was it. That's as simple as that. That was it. They're a little skinny. All of the guys that they play at the 4 spot are either a little short or probably should be 3s in the first place. Now, they did have my guy, I can't think of nobody's name at all times. You know how I am. But their power forward they were playing at that position had to go find himself a bag somewhere. He went to Pacerland. So they did ultimately lose him. Hopefully his name will come into my mind before the end of this video. But, ultimately they're kind of thin at their power forward position once again. So that's a little bit of a disappointment for me. But ultimately Dario Saric should be coming back healthy. And Jalen Smith. Now, if you were following me during the finals, you understand how I feel about Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith, I believe, was picked 10th. I think he was picked 10th. Might have been earlier than that. Last year. Rookie. One of the top rookies in the draft last year. I don't know if he was necessarily a reach at that time. I'm not sure. I'd have to do some homework to know if he was supposed to be in that range. But they took him because they wanted him to be their answer at power forward because they knew they didn't have one. And they didn't play him. Simple as that. He's a big body. That's what's evident about him as soon as you see the guy. He's huge. If that body fills out, he's going to be able to accomplish some things that normal players can't do off the strength of his body alone. So that's one thing that was evident to me. But even more so was just the fact that once Saric went down, they didn't have the faith to put the kid in the game in the finals, and that bothered me. It bothered me not that they didn't have the faith in the kid because he's a kid, but what bothered me is if he's a 10th pick in your draft and you have a hole at your power forward and your power forward that you're using goes down and it's the damn finals and he's a big body and you're going up against a super body in Giannis, hello, it would behoove you to put him on the floor. And, I was really let down by the fact that they just didn't try him. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I was let down by that. Because I'm sitting there like, this is all you need. Like, it's like you have your piece and then you have the whole. All you got to do is put them together and you're fine. But you just refuse to try. And I think they probably had legitimate reasons for it, but not better reasons than there would have been to play him, in my opinion. And that's ultimately what I think of the situation there. As far as Jalen Smith is concerned as a player, I have more to learn about him. I did homework on him when I did the video. But I don't retain none of this stuff. My mind has been, as you can see, scattered all over the place. But nevertheless, as it pertains to Jalen Smith, he's a power forward with a massive body. So there now is a need for power forward, being that the other guy went to the Pacers. I would hope he would step into that role and finally get an opportunity to show why he was picked so high last year. And let's not act like we've lost faith in somebody who's never gotten an opportunity. That's my thing. If a guy come out there and he's not ready, he's not ready. Fine. But how bad could he be if he was taken 10th? How bad can he be? That's my question. If you can't put him in when you need him most, when everything's on the line, then what the hell are you doing with the kid? That's my thing. What are we waiting for exactly? If the goal is to turn him into a player that can help me get to a championship, and we're sitting here in the finals, and he's sitting on the bench, what the hell are we doing? And that's ultimately the biggest frustration for me in regards to the entire NBA Finals, was just watching that kid continue to sit there and seeing that hole that they had at power forward continue to get exploited over and over and over again by Giannis. Very, very, very questionable stuff there by their organization, in my opinion. So moving on from there, they got Frank Kaminsky. That's a guy whose number they called in the finals and the playoffs to try to fill in, and they re-signed him. And I think Frank Kaminsky has shown some good things when he played for Charlotte. He was particularly a stretch five, somebody who can do some good stuff for you. But unfortunately, he's not a defensive presence, and that's exactly what they needed. So in a good role for Frank Kaminsky, I like his talents and what he brings to the table. But for what they need and what he doesn't bring to the table, it was really glaring, and that was unfortunate. So that's really what I have to say about that particular player in that particular situation. It's not that they can't use him. It's just that they didn't really feel confident in using him when they needed to. So, again, why is the player on the roster? It's the same thing I had to say about Frank. It's the same thing I had to say about Jalen. If you don't trust these guys, or if you can't play them consistently in situations where you need them in the finals, when it's for everything, what are they there for? Anyway, so that's that. Abdul Nader is there now. Abdul Nader is a guy who signed along, I think, midway through the season. Made his name in OKC as a guy who plays a lot of active defense, if I'm not mistaken. Offensive slasher. He can shoot the three a little bit. Kind of going off memory right now, so if I'm wrong about Abdul Nader, please forgive me. I'll do more homework on Abdul Nader and learn. But he's been in the league for a couple years, and he's an aggressive player, and he'll be with Phoenix. Next up, Langston Galloway. Langston Galloway's been around for quite a minute. Really reliable shooting guard, role player shooting guard. Kind of found his niche as a guy who just comes in and gives you instant offense. Good 12, 15 points you can get from the guy per 15 minutes. That's pretty damn good. You know, he's not a guy who's going to get a lot of minutes, but he's found a niche in this role as your 10th guy, 11th guy. And he comes in when he's asked to, and he does good things. I've seen him play well, particularly for the Pelicans. He kind of played his best basketball, in my opinion. Really showed he had some mid-range games, some three-point pops, stuff like that. Not an overly talented guy, but definitely somebody that you can rely upon to help booster your second unit. He's one of those guys, one of the top names actually in that regard, in my opinion. Langston Galloway and E'Twaun Moore are kind of in the same lane. You know what I mean? E'Twaun Moore and Langston Galloway, yeah, it's kind of like the same lane. You know, just shooting guards who are considered average, who you respect, and who help your basketball team. Those are those typical names. Those are two of the more typical names in that regard. Javaron Carter is a guy that they picked up. I'm not familiar necessarily with what he does, but I know he's been with this team. I think he was on this team last year. Tyshawn Alexander is a draft pick, the only real rookie that they have this year. I think they may have actually signed him after the draft. I looked up where he was drafted in the draft, and it didn't say he was drafted at all, so he might have been an undrafted signee. But Tyshawn Alexander is with this team. Not sure what position he plays. We'll find out, though. And last but not least, my guy, NBA champion of both the Los Angeles Lakers and two-time NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors. That's 3 rings if you're counting. JaVale McGee. Just simply one of the better athletic centers from his era. You know, I would say he's from the era right before the one we're in. And with that being said, he was one of those guys who started off early on. Of course, if you know about him, Shaqtin' a Fool. He was one of those guys who made a lot of mistakes, just kind of, mental mistakes, stuff like I be doing here, messing up names and stuff like that. But he does it in different ways at the time. And, people made fun of him for it, which is kind of understandable. But you know what's also understandable? Him stepping up to the plate and telling people to stop that. And when he did that, particularly when he stood up to Shaq and told Shaquille, I may not be you, but I deserve to be respected out here, and I'm not no punk or what have you. I don't remember the exact words that he said, but he stood up for himself, and everybody respected that about him. Maybe it's just me, but like right after he did that, he started winning championships left and right. I mean, he's won what? If I'm not mistaken, since he did that, he's won championships 3 out of the last 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. So that should tell you what you need to know about JaVale McGee. He had roles with those teams. He wasn't just sitting on the bench watching people play. For the Golden State Warriors, he was one of their main rim protectors, somebody that they needed out there and somebody that they missed when he left. And when he came here, he was a backup center for the Lakers, did exactly what we needed him to do as well. This is somebody who's always had hyper ability to jump, and he's already 7 feet with the wingspan to the heavens. So he's one of those guys where any team he goes to, he's going to help you. and he does a fantastic job of keeping himself in shape, and he does a fantastic job of getting off to good starts, particularly with the Lakers. His second year, he played like a damn all-star for us. I kid you not. It was only a stretch of about a month, but he was blocking shots, rebounding, and dunking everything. And he's pretty good from the free throw line. He has a nice touch. He's not a three-point shooter, but if he's left with the time expiring, it might go in. He's one of those guys. So I'm huge on JaVale McGee. He's a little later in his career at this point, but he's still got something left. Played with Denver last year, didn't get much of a role. Phoenix this year, I think he will fill a role quite a bit, and he's going to provide some help that they didn't have last year in that center position with Ayton. Ayton needed JaVale McGee last year so he can kind of slip away and not have to hold down everything in the paint all playoffs long. JaVale McGee will help with the development of Jalen Smith. Hopefully they can use him, and they'll have their center position be okay. Depending on how they go, depending on how things go for Phoenix, I can see them being players in the buyout market, trying to get some guys that maybe get waived from some bad teams, kind of boost to their team depending on how their season goes. I expect them to be a playoff team this year. I don't expect them to have the season they had last year, but I do expect them to continue the momentum from last year, and if health permits, they'll be amongst the best teams in the league once again. CP3 is a year older, so at some point in time, he's going to have to start slowing down. We just don't know when that's going to happen. But Booker and Ayton at that same time should be stepping up, so it should balance it out, especially if Campaign continues to play like this. So this is a team that's going to continue to be good. I can see somewhere down the road, I'm not going to lie to you guys, somewhere down the road they're going to trade CP3. That's going to happen. Somewhere down the road. Hopefully he has value at that time and hasn't, fallen off a cliff, for which I don't think he will, to be honest with you. But at some point, in order for them to have the flexibility that they need to get better and to keep some of their Campaigns and Mikal Bridges and stuff like those guys, they're going to have to get out from under that CP3 contract or the Ayton and Devin Booker contracts, for which is ill-advised. If I'm advising Phoenix, I'm choosing the kids. I love CP3 and I know how important he is, but you don't play with timelines. His career is almost over. Those kids are just getting started. You choose them. So that's why I say they end up trade CP3 at some point, but that's not this year and probably not even next year. Probably the final year of that contract. And it'll be a big to-do. It won't be small. So we'll see. We'll see if that actually happens. Yeah, that's what your Phoenix Suns look like. Like I said, a playoff team. Monty Williams is their coach. And as I said, some of the questionable stuff has already been mentioned, so we ain't going to go back down that road. But ultimately, I think he's a high-character coach who's shown that he can get his team to the big dance. And you can't take that from him, We know what he's been through in his personal life, losing his wife in such a tragic way several years back. It felt amazing to see him succeed and to get to this point, but he hasn't gotten it yet. And there's still some stuff to see him receive. And I hope he learned from some of the coaching mistakes and some of the criticism that was, I think, due to him last playoffs. There were some things that he could learn from and not do again. But all in all, he had a good showing, and just a good team. So we'll see what they can do again. West is wide open, y'all. I got Denver, the Lakers, Phoenix, Utah. Those are the teams coming to mind first. After that, I don't really know who's going to be in there. Golden State, they're iffy kind of contender to me. We'll talk about Golden State. I'll do a video on them. But I'm not as high on Golden State in terms of winning it all as I am, say, a Phoenix or Utah. I think those teams are better than Golden State at this moment. So, yeah, man. Could Phoenix get a little deeper? I think they have some dead weight on this roster. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like they don't. They could be deeper, and I think it could affect them if injuries come around. But they're strong in the point guard position. I think that's very important. So, Jalen Smith, his developments, everything. Please, for God's sakes, develop this kid into a real starting power forward so you can fill that hole that you have, because you haven't filled it. Dario Saric, get back healthy. They're going to need you. And, yeah, man, we'll see how they run, man. Everybody has to take a step forward on this team. At the end of the day, they have young players that need to take a step forward in order for them to get back to where they were. And they got to be able to withstand the field, which is changing. But all in all, they're still very good. My name is BDF44. This is about that Phoenix Suns team, y'all. Congratulations, Phoenix Suns. Stand up. Y'all turned it around. Congratulations getting to the finals. It ain't nothing minor. My name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.